Hello.
Hello, good morning or good evening to you guys there in the US. I hope you're all well.
Or good in the middle of the night for us here in Israel, 3 a.m., and we're very happy to be here with you.
Absolute privilege. So welcome to your intermediate course. This is the first lesson we're going to do together. We'll just introduce ourselves just in case you don't know. So I haven't taught for the US session for quite some time. My name is Mutzlu. I'm studying here at Israel in Petah Tikva B'nai Baruch for the past 14, 15 years with BB now. And I have taught the US sessions quite a long time ago, and I did a few semesters with you guys for quite some many years actually, until recently when the US has now new instructors, I believe. So you have some new instructors and they're taking over, and we hope those numbers will increase as well. And Gilad?
I'm Gilad. Gilad Shir. I live in Petah Tikva as well. I was born actually in Australia. I came to Israel about 21 years ago when I was 12. I've been studying Kabbalah for the past 11 years. I've been teaching Kabbalah for the past 7 to 8 years. I might have seen some of you in the quite recent North American New Jersey Kabbalah Congress. So if so, it's good to see you again. And if it is the first time we're meeting, then it's very exciting to be here, and I can already see some of you in the chat here. I can already see Katyo from Pennsylvania, and Carrie from Lord Valley, and Susan from Michigan, and Scott from Ontario, and Adam from Oregon, and I'm sure there are many of our friends, and Annie Bell from NC, that would be
North Carolina, and Bobby from California, and Valerie from North Carolina, and Teresa from Brazil, and Angela from Virginia, and Francisca from New York, and I'm sure there are many, many more friends that are connected to this lesson. And it is very exciting to start the second semester, the intermediate semester of the Education Center. Absolutely.
And I think what is really exciting about this semester is that if in the fundamentals, it's a very, very interesting, very deep semester, learning about the materials, learning about freedom of choice, learning about this whole system of desires, learning about what a desire is, learning about the language of roots and branches and whatnot. And in this semester, we're going to take a huge step in getting into the depth of the wisdom of Kabbalah. And we're going to do so through reading and learning the Rabash social writings, which is, maybe Mutlu can add a few words about the Rabash social writings.
Absolutely. First of all, if you don't have this book, Rabash Social Writings, it's recommended that you get one, because we'll be using that for the rest of our lives as long as we study Kabbalah. And also this green book, this book really pretty much has everything that we need to attain spirituality. So if you don't have these two books, do order them so you can follow us through. Now Rabash, in case you haven't heard about him, is Baal HaSulam's son. He's also the teacher of our teacher, Dr. Michael Lightman. And his writings are actually the last link in the writings of Kabbalists, and his writings are very, very special in the sense that he was the last Kabbalist who wrote in such a way that a group of people actually know what to do when they study together, and no other Kabbalists had done that before. So all the Kabbalists from previous generations wrote about the work in the group in such a misty way that it was never clear what to do when you were with the friends. And they wrote about the upper worlds, and you know, like Baal HaSulam and Ari wrote the Tree of Life, and then the Talmud Eser Sefer. So these were all books that were very technical. And Rabash has a very interesting story about how he started writing for us. Was when Dr. Michael Lightman came to him as a student. He brought some friends, and he said, listen, what are we going to do? You know, how are we going to study? Okay, I'm learning from you, but now they're here, and what are we all going to do together? So they were in the park taking a walk one morning when Dr. Michael Lightman asked that question, and Rabash took out a piece of paper from his pocket, something he said he scribbled on, and he started writing the first article, which is the first article, coincidentally, in this book, and it's called The Purpose of Society #1. And all of his writings, in fact 3 volumes of it in Hebrew, we just have one little volume here, started with that little question on a park bench somewhere over there in Tel Aviv. So it's a very interesting story, because from that one little question about what are we going to do as friends, how are we going to study together, came out 3 big volumes, and they're just based and written on how people should study together. And this is very fundamental. No other Kabbalist has such a work. So we're going to make the best of it, and we're going to suck all the juice out of these writings, because without these we really wouldn't know what to do together. Okay, so it's a huge leap, and this is a book we will be studying for years to come. It's not a book we read once and then, put it on the shelf. We'll be chewing these articles, and you will see that each time we chew them, you will discover how deeper it gets all the time, because our emotions are so deep. These books and writings will take us into that depthness.
Absolutely, and I just want to add to that, just to understand this really importance of the writings of Rabash. So let's see if this is working all right. Okay, so if until the time of Rabash we had one Kabbalist to another, passing on this method of Kabbalah, let's call it the light, passing it from one Kabbalist to the next. Each Kabbalist had this student that he passed it on to, from Adam until Baal HaSulam, which is Rabash's father. And then the Rabash, sometimes Dr. Lightman refers to him as the last, how do you say in English?
The last Mohican.
The last Mohican, exactly. Why is he the last Mohican? Because he gave Dr. Lightman a method that is no longer intended to be passed on from one Kabbalist to the next, but that is intended to be passed on from a Kabbalist to a group. And this is the first time in history that this actually happened. And the reason why we're going to start going into the study a lot deeper is because if in the first semester the study was more on the intellectual level, was more on the personal level, then here in this course, in the intermediates course, we're actually going to delve into the study together, between us. And that is a core foundation, a core principle in the wisdom of Kabbalah. That we're not learning intellectual materials only. We are absorbing and reading and learning and sketching and illustrating and so on. But really, the wisdom of Kabbalah is learned from within. And the way it's learned from within is with other people. So, have a good look at the friends you'll see in the chat. And starting from next week, we're actually going to start integrating a very, very unique method called our workshop, or a connection circle, which you might already have experienced, especially those who came to the Congress. And it's actually a form of discussion that enables us to practically implement the very same Kabbalistic principles that Rabash talks about. So that's just a heads up for next week and for the course to follow. So in the next sessions, in the next meetings, we're going to start practicing in a workshop. We're going to read the materials, discuss them together, and really feel how inside we're beginning not to learn intellectually, but to learn emotionally. And that is a huge, huge step in the study of the wisdom of Kabbalah. So it's very exciting, and we'll be happy to take your questions throughout the session. And maybe we'll begin with reading the article.
Absolutely. Today we're going to stand. Yes, we are going to stand today. The article is called "You Stand Today, All of You." So, and all of us are going to read that article. It's on page 60 from the social writing. So, if you have your book, do open it. If you don't have your book, it's okay. I'll be reading that through. Just one piece of recommendation. It's really handy to have a notebook, kind of like a textbook, where you can, jot little notes down as you read. Because if questions do pop up, then you can send them through the chat on your screen, and we can, kind of clarify everything as we go along. We're going to chew the material together. We're going to read it together. But in any case, what you might want to do is, make notes and ask them. Now, we're not going to read from the beginning. What we're going to do is start from page 60, from the third paragraph, starting with the word accordingly. And there'll be places we'll be skipping. In fact, you know what? In fact, I'll read from this highlighted paper. Even though I've got my book, it'll be easier on my eyes because these are a bit larger. Okay? And one more thing about that discussion session that we're going to do, the way that, that unique way of studying that we're going to start as that next Sunday evening for you guys, it's good to have a good microphone and a webcam if you have one available. It's a very unique method, like Gilad said, although the method, although Rabash writes about it extensively in how to work in a group, this method of study comes to us from the writers of the Zohar. So it's from a few thousand years, it's like 2,000 years old method about how to study properly in a Kabbalistic group. So it's quite important. So I will read, and if there are any questions, you can send them along, and we'll fix them and talk about them and solve them. Page 60, you stand today, all of you, the Social Writings, article number 19, 1984. Accordingly, if one works in order to bestow and does not wish for any reward in return except to serve in the holy work without hoping to be given any addition to what he has no wish even for additional work. In other words, receiving some knowledge that he is walking on the right path is certainly a just demand, and yet he relinquishes even that because he wishes to go with his eyes shut and believe in the Creator. And what he can, he does, and he's content with his lot. And he even feels that there are people who have some understanding of the work of the Creator, while he sees that he's completely empty. In other words, many times he feels a good taste in the work, and at times he feels that he is in a state of your heads. In other words, at times he thinks that now he has reached a degree where it is impossible that he will ever decline to a taste of lowliness, a state where if he wishes to engage in the work of God, he has to make great efforts to force his body. At that time, what he does is compulsion, because he has no desire for the work, and the body only wishes to rest and does not care for anything. Instead, at that time, he feels that he has already come to know for sure that there is nothing else in the world except to work in order to bestow. And then he certainly finds good taste in the work. And when he regards his previous states, he cannot understand now that he is in a state of ascent. Hence, by all calculations, he decides that now it is impossible that he will ever suffer a decline. But sometimes, after a day, an hour, or a few minutes, he descends to such a state of lowliness that he cannot immediately feel that he has fallen from his uplifted state to the depth of the great abyss. Rather, at times, after an hour or two, he suddenly sees that he has fallen from the highest level, meaning from his previous certainty that he was the strongest man, and he is like any man of Israel, meaning like an ordinary person. Then he begins to seek advice in his heart. What should I do now? How can I pick myself up to a state of greatness, adulthood, that I had before? At that time, one should walk on the path of truth. To say, my current state, being in utter lowliness, means that I was deliberately thrown out from above to know if I truly wish to do the holy work in order to bestow, or if I wish to be God's servant, because I find it more rewarding than other things. Then, if one can say, now I want to work in order to bestow, and I do not want to do the holy work to receive some gratification in the work. Instead, I will settle for doing the work of holiness like any man of Israel, praying or taking a lesson on the daily portion. And I don't have time to think with which intent I study or pray, but I will simply observe the actions without any special intent. At that time, he will re-enter the holy work, because now he wishes to be God's servant without any preconditions. This is the meaning of what is written, you stand today, all of you. Meaning everything you went through, all the states you've experienced, whether states of Gadlut or states of less than Gadlut, which were considered intermediate or so. You take all those details and you do not compare one degree to another, because you do not care for any reward, but only for doing the Creator's will. Now, let's just take a bit of a pause here so we have a bit of a digesting here. Now, this article is quite heavy. Okay, it's a hard article. It's not an easy article. However, what we need to take from this overall general article, these principles, are very, very fundamental, essential, and are actually not so hard to understand. Rabash, being a few generations before us, explains things in such a way that, they have their own language. So, like our grandparents, when they talk and when they tell us things, they have their own language, they have their own style and way of explaining. So Rabash here, in this article, he touches on some of the books and some of the learnings that he'd learned before, and he gives us an idea about what it feels like to study Kabbalah. That's all actually they're talking about, how to study Kabbalah. And up to here, basically, he's talking about the elevated state a person reaches when he studies Kabbalah. I guess many of you might have pretty much felt that as well. When we first come to Kabbalah, we've got this amazing sensation. We feel good, we feel elevated, we feel like we've found some kind of an answer to our question, what's the meaning of life, why am I living, and so forth. So during that study period, during the study for the rest of our study path, let's say, Rabash is saying that, listen, we're going to be going through these states all the time, and it's actually a good thing. So here in the beginning, he's talking about a person who's come to the path, he's studying, he's in an elevated mood, he now really wants to take the flag and run forward. He's in that state where he feels strong, he's committed, he's motivated, and he's got inspiration, aspiration, everything to go forward. He's, really energized. And after a while, he feels that his energy is lacking. He feels like, well, am I doing this right? If he has questions, doubts. So he says here that although he's feeling great, which is this concept of Gadlut, he's at the peak of his, the pinnacle of his energy and motivation. After that, he might come down to a bit of a descent. He might feel a little heavy, or he might feel a little unmotivated. But he's saying if such a state does happen, which is okay, when he says here he should do the things that like any man of Israel does, basically he says that, well, I should just carry on with the group. Basically that's what he's talking about. So if you feel like, well, what does it mean to be any man of Israel? What does it mean that I should be doing things, at a corporeal level, physical level, like I don't understand? Basically what he's saying, look, when you have the energy and you know what you're doing and you're running, that's great. If such a time comes that when you feel blurry, you don't know what's going on, and you don't know what to do, you feel lack of motivation, you don't feel any desire, he's saying, hang out with the guys and just do what they're doing. Basically go with the flow of the group. This is a very important aspect. This is what it means, like every man of Israel. It means like all of us study together and we're in a group now. And sometimes when I'm feeling blurry, just like I tell myself in life, don't I? When I have an obstacle in life, when I don't know how to solve a problem, I don't quit living. Or I don't just throw everything away and say, you know what, I'm just going to a tropical island and just going to live on coconuts. I take a look at my life, I reevaluate it, and I carry on as best that I can in my current conditions of life. So same here. In our spiritual work, it's not much difference. So I have those elevated states, I have those less motivated states, but no matter what happens, through those waves, I am still surfing. So sometimes I get a big wave and I can ride that really good. Sometimes I get a small wave and just fall over. I'm not feeling that good about surfing. But at the end of the day, we're still continuing to do that action. And that's what he's talking about here. Okay?
And he says it here. I just want to read out this paragraph again. He says, I'm reading on page 60 in the last paragraph. So he says, in other words, at times he thinks that now he's reached a degree where it's impossible that he will ever decline to a state of lowliness, a state where if he wishes to engage in the work of God, he has to make great efforts to force his body. At that time, what he does is by compulsion, because he has no desire for the work, and the body only wishes to rest and does not care for anything. So who's had that state before? Raise your hand if you have. If you've been in the spiritual path, you most certainly have experienced that state. And then he says, and instead at that time he feels that he has already come to know for sure that there is nothing else in the world except to work in order to bestow. And then he certainly finds good taste in the work. And when he regards his previous state, he cannot understand now that he has a state of ascent. Hence, by all calculations, he decides that it is now impossible that he will ever suffer a decline. So Rabashi is describing two polars of a situation here that the same person is going through. And I'm sure some of you are already identifying this as inner states you've been through. You can be completely motivated and you feel that there is no other reality besides the wisdom of Kabbalah, and this is the meaning of life, this is the purpose of life, and you don't even care what pleasure you receive in return, and if you have any reward from the study, and if you do feel any reward, you don't want to feel it, so you don't have anything for yourself, and you're doing everything to be like the Creator and to bestow upon the friends, upon the world, upon your parents, upon your dog, upon everything. You're trying to be like the Creator. And then that's one side of the coin. And then the other side he describes here, that he has no desire for the work, and the body only wishes to rest and does not care for anything. You only want to sleep. So this is a state. This is a spiritual state already. This is identifying our true desire, or to be more precise, our true lack of desire. And it's very important to have these discernments and to identify that this is not... It's irrational to say that I suddenly have no importance for the work. It really is irrational. How can that be? The same person yesterday saw this work as the most important thing in the world, higher than everything else, and suddenly it loses everything. It really is irrational. The only explanation is that a person is truly going through a spiritual state, that the Creator has, so to speak, thrown him down. He's really actually wanting to raise him up higher, of course. And the way to do that is to bring a person to identify his true state, which is that he does not have the strength to make that move himself. He does not have the ability to bestow upon himself, to bestow for himself, and that there must be some other solution. What is the solution exactly? We'll keep on reading and we'll find it.
Absolutely.
And then he says that after a day, an hour, a minute, he descends to such a state of lowliness that he cannot immediately feel that he's fallen from his uplifted state to the depth of the great abyss. It's a very powerful description, the depth of the great abyss. And then he goes further on, and he says, my current state, being in utter lowliness, means that I was deliberately thrown out from above to know if I truly wish to do the holy work in order to bestow. Again, he was thrown out deliberately to know if I truly wish to do the holy work in order to bestow, or if I wish to be God's servant because I find it more rewarding than other things. And that's an interesting point. So am I working? What's motivating me? Is it my good feeling? If I feel good from the work, and it gives me a good feeling for the study and to read the books and to draw the light. Oh yeah, I'm drawing the light. It feels so good. And then if I suddenly lose that sensation and I don't want to study anymore, I don't want to draw the light, then what is motivating me? Am I being motivated by my point in the heart, by my desire to reach spirituality? Or am I being motivated simply by my beastly, simple calculation of the will to receive, just like we learned in the fundamentals? Pleasure versus pain. If I get pleasure from drawing the light, then I do it. If I lose the pleasure, then I stop doing it. So he says the Creator does this deliberately. He throws a person out, so to speak, to know if he truly wishes to do the holy work in order to bestow. And then he keeps on saying, and he says, now, I want to work in order to bestow, and I do not want to do the holy work to receive some gratification in the work. Instead, I will settle for doing the work of holiness like any man of Israel, praying, or just a man of Israel. By now you definitely know that is a man that has a desire straight to the Creator. Just in case you've forgotten, Israel in Hebrew is from the words Yashar Kel. This is just a quick reminder. In Hebrew it's Israel, which actually means Yashar Kel. Yashar is directly or straight, and El is the Creator. So a person of Israel is a person that is going straight to the Creator. So he says, now I work like any man, praying or taking a lesson on the daily portion, and I don't have time to think with which intent I study or pray, but I will simply observe the actions without any special intent. And Rabash continues, at that time he will re-enter the holy work, because now he wishes to be God's servant without any preconditions. So this is a great tip that Rabash is giving us here. So a person is in a state that he is lost. He feels that he's lost the work, and he feels that he is in a, just as he described, in a state of lowliness, or in a state that he has no fulfillment from the work. And then he gives a great tip here, and this is really important. Write this down. He says that he begins to do the work without a special intent. So it's like he's beginning to awaken his body from outward, from the outside. So he does the work because he wishes to be God's servant without any special intent. You know, if you have that feeling that, no, I can't study because I don't have the right intention, in Kabbalah that's called a klipa, a shell. Meaning it's basically an excuse to not study. No, I can't study because my intention isn't perfect. So it's better that I don't study because I'll cause harm. No, of course not. Rabash says no, on the contrary. I will simply observe the actions without any special intent. And then he says at that time he will re-enter the holy work, because now he wishes to be God's servant without any preconditions. He's not saying, I'll only study if I have the right intention. I'll only study if I immediately feel the reward of the study and it's so fulfilling and I feel so great about it and I want to bestow and be like the Creator. No, he says a person even with this simple, seemingly, desire to get back into the work, to get back to be straight to the Creator, that already, it's like igniting the motor. It starts off slow, it starts off cold, but it starts warming him up. And he says, and this is the meaning of what is written, you stand today, all of you. Meaning everything you went through, all the states you have experienced, whether states of gadlut, which in Hebrew means adulthood, or it can also mean greatness, or states of less than gadlut, which were considered intermediate or so, you take all those details and you do not compare one degree to another, because you do not care for any reward, but only for doing the Creator's will. So it's very interesting, and it's more than interesting. It also, I'm sure, it touches your heart to hear how Rabash actually takes the inner states that every single person goes through them. So it feels like he's talking to you now, because you experience these states, and Rabash is talking about it, and now he's actually mapping out how to deal with these different situations. So up until now, he basically, just to recap, he described a state that a person is at a total high, that he has great taste in the work, a state when he's completely lost any taste, any flavor in the work, and that to reignite the effort and to reignite a person to re-enter him into the spiritual work, he can start doing that by just simply getting back into it without any special intent, and that can already reawaken him and get him to the right intention. And also he says that all of this comes from the Creator, so a person will scrutinize his true desires. So maybe we'll continue and we'll see where else Rabash takes us.
Absolutely. Also, please guys, the best way to evaluate an article is when you guys ask. Okay, so it's practical for us to read and explain things like Gilad has done, but if you want to chew an article, if you want to get the best of an article, it's best that when you're going through it, you have questions that pop up and you should ask. Because the benefit of this is really for you.
Maybe we'll take one question.
Sure.
Okay, so first of all, before the question, there's just to answer Scott, and in case there are any other questions about this, this is the intermediate class. This is what we call the second semester. There is a fundamentals class. If you're here now, then that means you should have already been through the first semester. If you haven't, it is highly recommended to sign up to the first semester first before taking this course, because you'll be missing the foundations of the study. So getting back to Annie Bell from North Carolina, and he's asking how or what is the clear interaction of this elevated state or degree. So what's the interaction of the clear in this elevated state?
Basically, we're talking here about the person's sensations. When we talk about a kli, a vessel, that's everything that's happening inside of us, right? So all our thoughts, desires, all the sensations that we go through. So Rabash here basically is taking a person who's studying the wisdom of Kabbalah, and through the study he has found a meaning, a direction, and a lot of answers to his questions. And accordingly he feels that he's now, in this elevated state, spiritual high, let's say. He's really got a good buzz out of it. As one continues to do the study and to advance, there are times when a person has down days. Okay, it's a downer day. And when those sensations come to a person, it's a sign of heaviness. And that heaviness is also a sensation we feel inside it, just like you feel in your daily lives when you feel like you're motivated to do something. And it's like going to the gym, right? Sometimes people start an exercise program, they're really motivated, they're out there, and they really go and nail it the first few days. And then afterwards, it's like, oh, should I go? It's a bit far, and so forth. Okay, all these states we go through in our day-to-day lives, we also do in spirituality. So Rabbi says when such a thing happens, you should just program yourself like an automatic pilot. Just like in something, if you, for example, going to the gym is a good example because a lot of people drop off on the way. A lot of people want to get fit, but very little of them do. If you do something for 27, 28 days, I think, every day, what happens is it becomes a routine. It becomes for you a habit. And then what happens is if you don't go, the next day you feel bad about it. So you continue to do that. So this is the trick here as well. When we're studying Kabbalah, the trick is to get ourselves into these routines that we're rolling with. The wheels are always turning, just like I have to go to work, right? Every day. So Rabash is saying, you know what, if you have those off days when you're not feeling so energized, just stick with the plan. Stick with the program. Okay, that's what they say, stick with the plan. And the plan is here to keep a framework that you build for yourself in spirituality. So it's a very basic, fundamental thing that we're doing, just like in our normal life. So a gym example is good because you have a planned program, the day, the exercises you're going to do. And so here as well, Rabbi says, you know, every day, so we're doing a little bit of work. And if there comes a day when I don't really feel like doing, he says, listen, don't worry about it. Don't think about it too much. Just do it, okay? Because afterwards you'll feel better again. Because just like you didn't want to go to the gym, but you went, and after you finished your exercise, you thought to yourself, oh, I'm glad I did this, okay? These sensations are very, very solid in our day-to-day lives, but we sometimes forget it when we're studying Kabbalah, because spirituality is for somebody else, basically. Okay, I didn't want to say it, but I'm saying it, okay? Spirituality is to bestow. It's to do good to other people. So when I'm going to the gym, I'm doing it for myself, so I can say to myself, oh, you know, I'm glad I did that. But spirituality is bestowal, and it's working towards others. And sometimes that could be like a big question mark on a person's mind. So all these sensations and things that are coming into our kli, our vessel, us basically, this is the interaction of us and the Creator on the path. Okay? This is basically how we're going to work. And that's what he's talking about here. So it's good to note these feelings and sensations and thoughts down. All right?
All right, let's continue the reading.
So
we really do encourage you to ask questions. Your question is like a kli, it's a desire that you express it, and then it creates this interaction with the materials when you ask a question. It's like expressing your desire. It's creating a kli. So really, we do encourage you to ask questions, and it's also for the benefit of all the rest of the students, because in many cases, I'm sure you've had this, someone asks a question and you say, that was my question, that was my feeling, because we really are interconnected on an internal level. So let's continue reading, and if you have any questions that come up during the reading or after, then feel free and please do post them.
So page 62, and we're reading from the paragraph that starts with this. This as in the third paragraph, okay? Third paragraph from below. This means that then the Creator makes a covenant with him. In other words, precisely when one accepts his work without any conditions and agrees to do the holy work without any reward, which is called unconditional surrender. This is the time when the Creator makes a covenant with him. Baal Slam explained the matter of making a covenant. When two people see that they love each other, they make a covenant between them that their love will always endure. And he asked, if they love each other and understand that this love will never leave them, why this covenant? Why do they make this covenant, meaning for what purpose? In other words, what do they gain by this making of a covenant? Is it only a ritual, or is there some benefit? He said that the matter of making a covenant is that now they understood that it is in their interest for each to love the other, because of reasons they can now see, that each one feels the other and cares only for his well-being. So they make a covenant. And as now neither has any complaints against his friend, or they would not make the covenant, they tell each other, it is worthwhile for us to make a covenant once and for all. It is worthwhile for us to make a covenant once and for all. In other words, if there is ever a state where one will have complaints against the other, they will both remember the covenant that they made when love was revealed between them. Similarly, even though they currently do not feel the love as they did then, they still evoke the old love and do not look at the state that they are currently in. Instead, they go back to doing things for each other. This is the benefit of the covenant. Thus, even when the love that was between them has lost its fancy, because they made the covenant, they have the strength to reawaken the shining love that they had before. In this way, they usher each other back into the future. It follows that Making the covenant is for the future. It is like a contract that they sign, that they will not be able to regret when they see that the ties of love are not as they were. That this love gave them great pleasure while they were doing good to each other. But now that love has been corrupted. They are powerless and none can do anything for the other. But if they do wish to do something for their friends, they must consider the making of the covenant that they had before. And out of that, they should rebuild the love. It is like a person who signs a contract with his friend, and the contract connects them so they cannot part from one another. So you stop me if there are any questions, Gilad.
Yes, there is one question from Nicole from Texas. Nicole's asking, what is the program as seen in the gym example?
Okay, that's a good question. You know, a program is a framework for life. Actually, we all have a framework. We sometimes don't pay a lot of attention to it. But if you think about it, right, Nicole, for example, maybe you're working. If you're working, you know, you don't go to bed too late because you have to go to work the next day. So you have actually an automatic routine. Every day we have this. So I get up, you know, take a shower, go to work, do my job, come home, and you know, during the day I have lunch, come home, have dinner, maybe watch some TV, maybe spend some time with family and friends. We actually subconsciously in our lives, we're all acting according to some kind of a routine. And in spirituality, it's the same way. Now, if I want to attain anything in life, anything, you know, like the gym example, right? Let's say I want to get fit. Let's say I want to lose some weight and look after myself and feel better about myself. What I do is I arrange my day in such a way that I say to myself, you know what, Mutlu, I want to get fit and I want to, you know, feel better about myself. So 3 times a week I'm going to go to the gym. So I look at my life and I say, well, during the day I'm working. In these evenings I've got these obligations to my families or friends or loved ones. So where can I fit this in, right? So I look at my weekend, I look at my, you know, during the week when I've got that nice little spot, or I say to myself, oh, you know what, during work I could do that on my lunch hour. I could just go for a jog for 30 minutes, you know, there's shower in the office, I'll come back, take a shower, get back to work. So I arrange my life according to this new goal that I've got. Okay? So I reschedule and replan my life. So Rabash is saying, well, it's good to do such a thing because we don't always have the motivation and the tendency to do things that we're not really used to. Not, you know, let alone spirituality, where spirituality defines itself as in Kabbalah, like doing things for other people, because I'm more motivated and happy to do things for myself, and even that's a, you know, big question mark, like going to the gym. Nobody's consistent with that. And even so, we need a framework in the study of spirituality. So that program is how a student, when he or she comes to Kabbalah, starts to study, endeavors to progress, endeavors to continue her or his studies. So in your case here, what you need to, you know, what you should be doing is evaluating, well, how much do I want to study this? How much do I want to get out of this? And according to your desire, because a person only learns according to how much they want. So according to your desire and how much you want to learn and participate, you should start to build yourself a framework about the learning center lessons. Maybe there are other activities in North America that you can participate in. Maybe you have some friends nearby that you guys meet on a regular basis. So around that, a person starts to slowly build a foundation for spiritual work. And that program depends on you. One thing that's really nice about Kabbalah is it doesn't force you into any program. It basically says, listen, you can only study as much as you want. And You know, even if somebody forces you to come to school, if your mind and heart are not at what you're studying, you're really not studying. So you're in school, but you hate chemistry, let's say. You know, your mind isn't just there. It's just not there. So even though you are in the class, you're with the guys and there's a teacher teaching, you're really not studying. So Kabbalists are very smart guys. So they're saying, listen, you can only study if you want to study. So what can we tell you? So we can't push a program onto you. We can't tell you how much to study or what to do. But a person should understand from what we've studied so far that I'm going to have good days and I'm going to have, you know, lack of motivation days. So if I feel that this study is right for me, if in my heart I felt that, you know what, this really answers my spiritual needs, and if I already from beforehand, because this is the whole idea of this article, he's telling us, listen, these things will happen, these ups and downs, so be prepared for it. So if I take his advice, I'm already thinking, wow, I'm really motivated. I'm in my second semester. I've done the first one, and I really want to progress with this. But, you know, Rabash is telling me something really interesting here. I might have a bad day. So what am I going to do? The program that you build for yourself is the thing that's going to do it for you. And that's called the framework of study. That's how we call it here. A person has a framework that regardless of a bad day, I look at my program Monday morning before work, half an hour, hit the gym. And even though I feel, oh, I just woke up, I really don't feel like it, okay, but I'll just take care of this. I took a tick, I put a tick on it, and I dash to the gym, I take care of it, and then I feel, oh, I'm glad I did that. Okay, that's a program. And that's something you got to build. Okay, but in time, well, you know, if you feel like you need help with that, we're always here to help. So feel free to ask. I think that was a very, very nice question there.
Let's continue a little bit. So there are some questions about the text we just read about the covenant. Let's just have a quick look at it again.
Sure.
So,
do you want me to read?
Let's just do a few,
paragraph by paragraph.
just do a few selections.
Sure.
Okay, so actually, Baal Sulam, Rabash is bringing Baal Sulam's explanation about the matter of the covenant. And Baal Sulam is expressing this through an example of two people. And basically, it's a pretty clear example. Anyone in the audience who is married then understands this, that he explains that when two people love each other, understand this love will never leave them, then you can say, okay, so what do you need the covenant for? You know, it's redundant. They're in love to one another, or I'm in love with the Creator now. I feel this love. I feel the connection. I don't need to sign any contract. I don't need a covenant. I mean, it's clear that it will last forever. But we know how the ego works, and the ego in the spiritual path is always, it's not really growing, but it's constantly being more and more revealed. Because the ego that is right now revealed is only a very, very actually small portion of the actual desire that was created, of the actual ego. And the reason why only a small portion of it is revealed is because at this state that a person is in, he can only correct a small portion. And the more he advances, the more of that desire is revealed, until he can correct his entire desire to receive that great light in order to bestow. So, Baal Sulam says, so what's the purpose of the covenant when they feel the love between them? What do they gain? Is it a ritual or is there some benefit? And he says that the matter of making a covenant is that now they understand that it's in their interest for each to love the other because they have reasons and now they can see. So right now I don't feel the need for this covenant because it's clear to me what is going on between us. And then they make the covenant. Why? Because when they do not feel the love, when suddenly things don't go as planned, when suddenly you come across an obstacle, and again, a good example is a relationship. You feel with your partner that everything, as we likes to say, hunky-dory.
Honky-dory.
Honky-dory. And you feel everything is, you know, with butterflies and beautiful and pink and all rainbows, and that's fine. But suddenly things don't go as planned because obviously a person is a will to receive, and if things don't go according to that will to receive, then it's felt as conflict. And at that time, that's where you can pull out this contract, you can pull out this covenant. Meaning the covenant isn't for the time of upliftment, it isn't for the time where you feel the good, positive connection with the Creator, but it's specifically for the time when a person loses that feeling. So he says, they still evoke the old love and do not look at the state they are currently in. Instead, they go back to do things for each other. And this is the benefit of the covenant. Thus, even when the love that was between them has lost its fancy, because they made the covenant, they have the strength to reawaken the shining love that they had before. In this way, they usher each other back into the future. So really, he's explaining the laws of nature here that are applicable for everything. For your friendship, if you have a good friend, if you make this pact between you, then your friendship will last and it will take you through the ups and downs. The same with a relationship. This is a definite must in a relationship. I know that in many religions, when a person gets married, they actually sign a contract, whether if it's according to the law or according to the religious law. But it's a custom to sign a contract because it's clear that human nature will not hold on to that uplifted, elevated feeling of love. So it says, it follows that making the covenant is for the future. It is like a contract that they sign that they will not be able to regret when they see that the ties of love are not as they were, and they won't be. That Rabash guarantees us that these ties of love that are felt now will suddenly feel like they're falling apart. It'll be done on purpose by the Creator in order to raise a person, to bring him to a higher degree. But that sensation that a person feels, that fulfillment from the work, will definitely be lost. And when they see the ties of love were not as they were, that this love gave them great pleasure while they were doing good to each other, but now the love has been corrupted, they are powerless, and none can do anything for the other. But if they wish to do something, they must consider the making of the covenant they had before. And out of that, they shall rebuild the love. So this is actually key to coming out of that same state that Rabash describes to us. That when a person is in that lowly state, he's lost the taste for the work, he's lost the feeling of it, and by making that agreement at that very moment, then that already enables him to rebuild the love. It's like a person who signs a contract with his friend, and that contract connects them so they cannot part from one another. So you might be thinking, okay, but how can we sign this contract? Is it something... Okay, so this is actually answering Scott from Ontario's question. So a covenant is a contract? Correct. It's basically signing up now, and you don't have to sign on a piece of paper, although you can as an exercise if you want to do that. And it's interesting when you look at that piece of paper, maybe when you're in a state of lowliness, and you might think, who wrote that? Did I write that covenant? Impossible. So it's a good exercise if you want to try it. But yes, a covenant is basically a contract that a person signs in his heart with the Creator. So if you're feeling this powerful thing now, if you're feeling this connection to the sources, this connection to the light, then now is a time that is as good as any to make that demand. And if we all do that together, it's even more powerful. If we decide that right now we're making a contract with the Creator, that no matter what state a person will go through, and no matter what turbulences and waves a person will be gone through, we're right now carving this contract from within, that we will remember, even on a superficial level, even just a vague memory, that we made this contract, and this contract will help us rebuild the love. Then you will see the effect of it through these turbulences, through this exciting, really, because it is exciting, this exciting ups and downs of the spiritual path. So yes, God, a covenant is a contract, and we already have a few more questions, so we'll read them and start answering. So, a question from Susan from Sunrise, Florida. So learning Kabbalah is making a contract with the Creator to learn how to grow and become spiritual in our lives. I think we answered that already. Mm-hmm. If you want to further scrutinize, Susan, then write a follow-up to the question.
Just to clarify that, Kabbalah is basically, Kabbalah is a method. Okay, we study Kabbalah in order to understand the whole of reality and to participate in that reality with an additional sensation that which we don't have at the moment, and that's called a soul. So I don't want to go into that too far at the moment, but we want to fulfill something that we feel is lacking in our lives. It's an inside, inner lacking, an inner emptiness, that this inner void we want to fill. And when we come to study Kabbalah, it kind of gives us that sensation that we've touched on filling it. So the study of Kabbalah is how to fill that inner emptiness that we have, and how we can fulfill our lives by really feeling life with its fullness, with its immense capacity to understand, feel things that are beyond our imagination. A contract, a covenant, is something on the path that I do. Actually, a covenant is something I do with myself. And if you participate in the group, then you do with the group. The reason is we don't really know the Creator at the moment. So we don't feel it, okay, the Kabbalists are talking about a Creator out there somewhere. Well, we don't know where He is. All we have is this hunch, this gut feeling that gave us a good sensation that studying Kabbalah is good, and I want to do this. So if I want to do this, I kind of have to start thinking about how to carry on. And essentially the covenant needs to be that decision I make to carry on. Okay, so I take that step forward to carry on. Afterwards, if you're studying with friends, then you understand that on the path how valuable friends are, and that if you didn't get the motivation from them, that you wouldn't really, be going anywhere in Kabbalah. This is also true in our life, and I'll give an example. There are a lot of people who give motivational speeches in life. Right? You see all these people, they give motivational talks, speeches, and they tell you how to get things done in this world. They say, you know what, you got to do this, this, and this, and you'll achieve your goals and your objectives. Okay? They spell it out for you. Do this, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what they're telling you is true. However, according to the stats, only 3 to 4% of people who actually listen to them out of the thousands actually get to do those things. The reason the majority fail, the 95% fails, or call it the 99%, is because they don't have a facilitating environment. Now, what is that got to do with the covenant, you might ask? Well, when you get together with a group of friends and you understand that you're going to have the bad days with the good, you start to build a covenant with them. And this is the covenant that we're talking about as well. Because the Creator is a bit airy-fairy, He's not around. What is around that I see, hear, feel, is the group, which you must have touched on your fundamentals. So when the friends are together, for example, we study, you guys have two sessions a week or once a week, I'm not sure, okay? But for example, your commitment to come to your learning center lessons twice a week is your covenant. That's like you saying to the Creator, and you're saying to yourself, you're committing to yourself. And if you have friends who study with you, wow, that's even better, because then you're all telling each other, guys, twice a week we're going to nail this. Hail or sunshine, twice a week we got this. Okay? And that's a covenant. Anything that's built around commitment to each other towards our goal of attaining spirituality by the study of Kabbalah is a covenant. Yeah.
Okay, take another question.
Mm-hmm.
A question from Emily from New York, and also Nicole added to that as well, the same question. Is it the Creator making a covenant with us, or is it only us for Him when our ego rises?
Well, the Creator made his covenant with us when he woke us up. You know, the Creator is a very, very creative creator, as we like to say here. And he wakes you up. He gives you a good sensation. He brings you to the study of Kabbalah. He brings you to the Congress. He brings you to the friends, and you feel, oh, wow, this is great. You know, I've been looking for this all my life. And then because he's so creative and cheeky, what he does after a while, he just puts a stick in your wheel, and you kind of like fall off. But that's a really kiss from above. He's now telling us, you know what? I brought you to the friends for a specific reason. Because spirituality is something that we feel, and feelings can only be received from participating in mutual things together. Okay, just like in love, right? I can't feel love on my own. I have to have my wife or my girlfriend or my partner, so I feel love towards that person. So there has to be somebody reciprocating. So the Creator says, you know what, because everything is felt in love, all our lives are felt in the sensation called love, here's an opportunity for you to build that. So he kind of trips us and tricks us and gives us an opportunity for us to take a step forward with our free will, which you learned in the first semester. So here now we're building on the foundations of the first semester. Now you got your free will. You're feeling a little dodgy on the way, but you got free will. Should I stay or should I go? All right? And the friends are there, the group is there, the books are here, the learning center is here, we're here, our friends in North America are there. So now we actually have an environment to build this situation. The covenant is now something we can make together. The Creator already, he made his deal. He woke us up and he brought us to the method and to the group. He said, you know what? I've signed. He's already signed off on it. And that's our awakening. Now the trick is, are we going to sign on it? So he's already expressed his love towards us by, waking us up, taking us through this path of development, and bringing us to a state where we ask, why are we living? What's the purpose and meaning in life? To finding an answer to that question, he's already signed off on it. And he's now given us the opportunity, the freedom of choice, where I have the dot in the heart on the one hand, and my ego on the other hand, and I have to kind of go back and forth between them in order to make a decision. So that's how we build a covenant.
And really the Creator, we speak of him, when we speak of the Creator, we even call him a him, or sometimes it's also called in female, the Shekhinah. We're giving it seemingly human qualities, that the Creator is angry at us or that he throws us to a certain state. It's a lot simpler than that. The Creator is at complete rest. It is constant and never changing and perfect and complete and whole. And the only thing that changes in us. So you can say, wait, but how can this single force take us through all these states? Well, an easy example to understand is think of the law of gravity. Think of everything that gravity does. It's a single force. Now think of a roller coaster that goes up and down and maybe goes through a loop and to the side. And what's enabling this roller coaster to go through all of these states isn't a lot of forces pulling it here and there and back and forth. It's a single force, this force of gravity, that's pulling constantly in the same direction, and that enables this roller coaster to do what it does. So the Creator is utter bestowal, is unchanging. We're surrounded by it. We're in a sea of light, of fulfillment, of perfection, and all of the changes that we feel are from our vessel. So this covenant that we do with the Creator, of course we're doing it for our advancement, for us to change. The Creator is already signed on with you from the second of creation until you reach the end of correction. He's there, he's complete, and he's waiting, and he's providing the perfect environment, the perfect circumstances for each one spiritual development, by the way. So every single person, every single one of you now, has a lot of different things in life. You have this, you have that. Maybe you have a partner that isn't supportive, or maybe you have a very demanding job, or anything. Don't think that any of that is by chance. Every single thing you have in your life is perfectly tailored to lead you to the spiritual path. So I want to continue with a question from Francisco from New York, and he asks, when the Rabash speaks of the work, is he referring to our spiritual development or to the study of Kabbalah? So Francisco, I want to maybe use this question to give a quick reminder of what the wisdom of Kabbalah really is. So a quick pop quiz for you to answer in your head. So, what was created? What is the only thing that was created? There was light. And what did the light create? So I hope you're answering in your head. If you said the light created a desire or a will to receive, then you are correct. And this desire, this will to receive, were at complete adhesion to one another. And to make a long story short, a whole lot of things happened. You've learned this already. We're not going to repeat that because that would take us 20 lessons. Or actually maybe 20 years if we want to really go into details. But to make a long story short, the light and the Kli departed in order to give the Kli the ability to rebuild this connection independently. And in this departure of the light, nothing was left but only a little spark. This tiny little spark, let's call it the force of bestowal, is plus, and a will to receive, call it a minus. And these two forces together led to the development of nature, of the still, the vegetative, the animate, the speaking. And a few 100,000 years ago, there was the evolution of man, which is also driven by the light, of course. So this is the human level. And the human beings, as we see today, their desires, say, over the past few thousand years are growing and growing and growing and growing, and moving from desires for simply beastly, animal desires of having a family and sex and food and shelter, and as the desires evolved to social desires of money, of knowledge, of honor, of power. And what we're experiencing today is that these desires are reaching a dead end, meaning people are not finding fulfillment anymore. So it's like we've reached this line of satiation. It's like the desire was growing and growing and growing, and now the desire is growing but the fulfillment isn't, and that leads people to depression, to despair, to crying out, what is the meaning of life? And each one of you and us who are sitting here had that spark awaken in them. And this spark actually comes from very, very far back. This spark comes all the way from here, from this original connection with the Creator. And this spark that pushes a person to find why this person is alive, he is brought to a spiritual path. He is brought to the wisdom of Kabbalah. And the wisdom of Kabbalah is actually, in Hebrew, the word Kabbalah or it's written in Hebrew, Ka-ba-la. It actually means to receive. That's it. You could say, wait a minute, a wisdom to receive? Why not to bestow? I want to bestow, I don't want to receive. I've had enough of receiving. Well, the answer is simple. The reason why it's called the wisdom of reception is because the only thing that was created is a will to receive. That's this thing over here. A will to receive. That's the only thing that was created. And the wisdom of Kabbalah teaches us how to receive correctly so that the fulfillment will not be immediately emptied, which is what we feel in this world, that the fulfillment cancels the pleasure. So the easiest example to understand is when you eat something, every bite removes the pleasure. If you buy a new car, after 2 weeks you lose the sensation of it. Any new promotion you get, very quickly it goes down. That is because we do not know how to correctly receive. So Francisca from New York. The work, and that is the only work, is to learn how to correctly receive. And that is the spiritual development. That is learning how to create a masach, it's called in Kabbalah, or literally it means a screen, which is basically a filter that enables us to receive the light, but not for ourselves, but in order to bestow. And all the Kabbalah books speak only of that. So saying spiritual development, saying the study of Kabbalah, they're of course the exact same thing, because the wisdom of Kabbalah teaches us how to move on from the current egoistic fulfillment that humanity is now pursuing and has been for thousands of years. And there we see that it's a dead end, because the desire is always cancelled, it always disappears, and that's called corporeality, to a state where a person begins to receive in order to bestow, where he begins to rebuild his shattered soul through his connection with the other people, through the group, through his relationship to the Creator that is done with interactions with the group, and that is exactly the social writings. So that is, of course, the spiritual development. So we should take some more questions?
If there are any.
Okay, let's see. Okay, question from Annie Bell. Therefore the Creator did not reveal himself to the sage, but only they have the intimacy and relationship with a group of humans?
Who's asking?
Annie Bell from North Carolina.
That's a great question, Annie. So why isn't the Creator revealing himself and saying, listen, I'm here, you guys are supposed to be like me? You know, just like we have parents, right? When we have parents, we see them, we take example from them, and we grow up and we're educated accordingly. Everything is crystal clear. What is revealed to a sage is actually the Creator's relationship to us. Just like as we grow up, we reveal how our parents relate to us. However, the Creator is not revealed because, first of all, according to the nature, there's no equivalence of form. But let's leave technicalities aside for a moment. The Creator brings us to a group in order for us to first discover our own nature. The objective of studying Kabbalah is to reveal the Creator, that's for sure. And we will reveal the Creator, that's for sure as well. Okay? However, the Creator wants us to first reveal in the relationship between us what our real nature is. And we can't really do that when the Creator is around. It's like little kids. When Mummy is around, they don't do a lot of naughty stuff, right? Because Mummy is looking. So the Creator did us a favor. He said, listen, this world, this creation is all yours, and I'm going to give you the sensation that you can do whatever you want. Free world. And that's how we live, actually. We don't feel like the Creator is looking over us and watching us and guiding us. We don't. So same here. The Creator gives us an opportunity to play as if we want to be spiritual. And this study, the study of Kabbalah, kind of in that environment, brings to our attention our real personality and character. What we really are. And once we discover what we really are, then we can start to kind of like swing that around and see how we can make ourselves compatible to something that is exactly opposite to what I am. But in order to do that, I have to first really get down into the nitty-gritty of my personality and character and our nature, which is egoism, as we read about it. So the Creator brings us to a society, basically, in order for us to discover the depth of this ego, so that I can actually start to think about, well, you know what, if I'm egoistic in this way, what do I need to do to overcome it? How do I need to change? And the study process brings us to this kind of thought, idea, this new revelation inside of us about how we can change and what we can do. And this actually, all these thoughts and sensations that we go through are actually the influence of the study, the influence of the Creator. It's called the light. Okay, but light is nothing airy, fairy, misty out there somewhere. Light means that as I'm studying, I'm increasing my consciousness. I'm increasing my level of understanding about what I really am and how I am in reality. So as we study, we discover through this study in the environment what the real Creator is, what His actions on us are. And that's the discovery of the Creator. Discovery of the Creator is not physically seeing Him like I see Gilad here, right? He's next to me, I see Him, I'm looking at Him and thinking, well, physically he's Gilad. But I don't measure Gilad according to a flesh of meat, according to his body or structure. I know Gilad according to how he relates to me, according to the connection that we have as friends. That's how I define Gilad, just like in our lives. So if I have a friend and he's really good to me, I say, oh, he's such a good guy, he's such a great friend, he's always helping me out, and so forth. I'm actually discovering his qualities, aren't I? I'm discovering how he treats me as his friend. And that's the discovery of the Creator, and that's what we're really going to discover, how he, throughout the whole of creation, with everything that he's done, how he's treating me. And from that treatment, I learn how to reciprocate. So if I met Gilad, and this is let's say we met him, and a few guys, we all got together, and it's the first time I was introduced to Gilad, and we're sitting down at a cafe, and Gilad says, you know what, let me grab you a cup of coffee. Let me get you a coffee, I'm going to get myself a drink, do you want one? And I say, yeah, coffee. And he gets me a coffee, and I want to pay him for the coffee. He says, you know what, this one's on me, mate. Okay, so all of a sudden I've got this good impression about Gilad. He's like, well, you know what, this guy is a nice guy, we just met him, and he didn't have to, but he got me a cup of coffee. That
you were
was
hinting
nice.
That I should get you a cup of coffee?
I am hinting you should do much more than that.
I will.
But let's start with a cup of coffee.
After the lesson, a cup of coffee on me.
That's right. So basically, I begin to discover Gilad through his actions. This is the beauty of the whole thing here. We begin to discover the Creator through what he does to me through the environment. Okay? And that's how we discover the Creator. So this is why the environment is so important. This is why friends are important. This is why humanity is so important. And this is why we endeavor to teach as much as we can to everybody that the whole point of having this elevated spiritual level of consciousness is really this connection that we all have between each other. Yes.
Okay, we have 12 minutes left.
We have a few
things
to read. Yeah, let's just finish what we want to read. We're continuing from page 67. There's only a few paragraphs left. Top of 67, therefore. Therefore, if the desire to bestow is called the light, then this deficiency, when one sees that he does not have the power to bestow, is called a kli. He feels that this is what he is missing, meaning he sees what he is losing by not having this power called the power of bestowal. Hence, his deficiency is built in him according to his sensation. This is called a kli and a vacancy. For here, where he lacks the power of bestowal, there is room for the filling to enter. This is called the arrival of the light into the kli. However, we should know that receiving this kli requires a lot of work. We have kelim, this is the plural for kli, called deficiencies, which we wish to fill. They are called kelim of self-love, meaning that we wish to receive fulfillment. These are very important kelim because they come from the outside of the Creator, who created them existence from absence, because he wishes to do good to his creation, meaning that he wishes to give fulfillment. Yet, how is it possible to give fulfillment if there is no vacancy in which to place the filling? For this reason, he created these kelim, existence from absence, to place the light and pleasure in them. It turns out that this is the essence of the kli that the Creator created. However, because this kli is called desire to receive, it wished to have equivalence of form called dvekut, adhesion with the Creator. This is why this kli was disqualified from being a kli for reception of the upper abundance. Now there's a need for a new kli for reception, which dresses in the former kli, where only by both, by clothing the will to bestow within the will to receive, will this kli benefit reception. The previous kli, called desire to receive, came from the emanator. The lower one has no part in the work of the desire to receive, although everything comes from the emanator. Similarly, the second kli, called desire to bestow, comes only from the emanator as well, and the lower one cannot add, just as in the first kli, called desire to receive. However, the difference is that the vessel of bestowal must first have a demand from the lower one, who seeks of the Creator to be given the new kli. This is the first kli did not have, because it came to him without any awakening on the part of the lower one. Now it might seem a little confusing with a few words in there, technicals like kli, dvekut, kilim, but look, principle is very simple, just like Gilad drew a minute ago. There is the Creator, which is a light, okay, and there's the vessel. Now the Creator wants to bestow and give the kli, which is a desire to receive, which is us, pleasure. Okay, that's the whole idea. So the Creator has a dilemma. I want to give you guys pleasure, so I created you from a desire to receive. Okay, so you guys can receive, and I'm the desire to bestow. So when we're both in this together, okay, like a couple, right, we are going to feel good. But one little problem. Because you're a desire to receive pleasure for yourself, this is a bit egoistic. And just like we can't have a relationship with one side, demanding all the time and the other side giving, that's just not going to work. Same thing in this relationship with the Creator, right? Okay, if we're a couple and our spouse is always wanting and not giving anything back, we're going to say, listen, wait a minute, this is just not working out. Okay, so the Creator is in the same thing. Listen, this is just not going to work out if you are wanting all the time and I'm giving all the time, because at the end of the day, although we want to love each other, you will begin to hate. Because I'm giving so much, you will begin to hate because you'll feel like a beggar. This is why relationships also don't work. So just like in our life, we have the same thing with the Creator. So what can we do as a desire to receive to connect with the Creator who wants to bestow? So Rabash is saying it's easy. Although I'm a desire to receive, I should now think about wanting to give. Okay? And the whole trick behind this is, you might think, well, wanting to give, how's that got to do with reception? Well, it's very easy. Because if I love someone and if I do good things to them, I actually become very happy, don't I? Just think about Valentine's Day. You have a person that you really love and you're going out to buy them a present, and an expensive one too. I mean, would you normally do that to somebody else? You wouldn't, right? Because who wants to pay a lot of money to somebody who, right? So because there's love and connection between us, spending money, buying a present, going to the trouble of finding the right present, thinking, oh, what's she going to like? What do I need to get her? What does she like? What if she doesn't like what I get her? We've got all these worries. We're thinking about her or him. And so, same thing here. Actually, this desire to give to that person becomes a very joyful, happy, exciting state. So Ramesh is basically telling us, listen, we're a desire to receive pleasure for ourselves, but you know what? There's also pleasure when you love someone and you can give things to them. That's a huge pleasure. Like also with our children. We love to make them happy and smile, and when they're happy, we all of a sudden become, very happy. We run around for them, we take them from, from one place to another just so that they can have, fun swimming or fun playing, any kind of sport they want to do. We run around for them. They exhaust us, but we're happy about it. Why? Because we love them. So Rabash is saying, just change your approach. Instead of loving yourself, love others, and there's greater pleasure in that. That's basically That's basically, in a nutshell, what we read in a few paragraphs. And he says if you guys do that, you can actually feel this creator that exists outside of us, but we don't feel at the moment. Now we've got 5 questions, so I'm happy to, we're happy to take questions. 5 minutes, sorry.
Yeah, we actually have, let's just...
So we can like nail them, yeah.
Let's just do a quick lightning round. So we have a question from Rolderick from Brazil. He says that in the middle of Kabbalah for the student, he's trying to keep the rhythm of reading it since he got it, but his values have changed for sure. And he's stopped reading it for a while, and now he feels some strange things while he's studying, a feeling of missing me, if I understand you correctly, Rolderick. Is this natural? He's asking.
Yeah, of course, because when you study and then you let go, it builds a desire in you, okay? And sometimes this happens. It's actually a good feeling. And you feel like you stopped, and then you see other people that haven't stopped, and you feel like you missed out. There's a sensation that you missed out on something. So I think that's a very nice question. If you're asking what to do with that, that would be an additional bonus question, is to continue with the learning center, continue the process that we're going through. I think it's a beautiful sensation you went through. It's like the descent that he talked about in the beginning. Okay, you were elevated, you had a good time reading, and so all of a sudden you had this bad moment and you stopped reading, and now you got some impression from that. That's actually a good impression you should value, but keep it in your mind as a memory about what you lived, so you can now build on it.
And it's a good exercise to try and see these states that the ego goes through, to observe them from the side, and to see what your ego is feeling. Your ego is feeling this, your ego is feeling that, and that's of course a result of going through a lot of states. It's actually life. Going through ups and downs is life. A straight line is death. A quick question, Susan from Michigan. So the will to receive is actually the light that we receive, so that we gain the will to bestow. Susan, this is actually a really good question, and the answer is very simple. There is 2 forces in nature. The will to bestow, which is the creator, and that will always remain only the will to bestow, and the will to receive, which is the created being, that would be you, and you will always remain a will to receive. That will never change. So you might be saying, okay, so what are we doing? What's this will to bestow we need to reach? No, the only thing that needs to happen is to change our intention in order to bestow. It would be like a person using a knife. You could do the same action of cutting flesh. You could be a murderer, or you could be a doctor. One is taking life, one is saving life. The action remains the same, the matter is the same, the intention changes. And that is what the wisdom of Kabbalah is all about. You do the same things, the exact same things, but your intention changes, and as a result, your ability to receive the light. So we're basically out on time, and it's great that there are still more questions. And we will really make an effort to answer every question that you have. Maybe just tell Scott from Ontario, who answers, how do we acquire a masach? So the answer is very simple.
Carry on studying.
Exactly.
It's a very nice and fair question. But we have to understand that just like children grow over a long period of time, and they change, and their understanding of life is constantly changing, okay? And they build an attitude after like many years. They grow up and say, you know what, this is me, this is how I live, and this is what I do, and that's how I do things. Same in Kabbalah. It takes time to change the way we see things. So it's a process, and it will build inside of you slowly, slowly. So don't despair. It takes time, just like everything in life.
Okay, so a few announcements. First of all, about next week. There was a question about getting special software. No need, you'll get a link. It's basically, from the link, it installs it automatically. It's very, very user-friendly. It's called Zoom. You'll get the info in your email. Your next lesson is on a Wednesday, June 29th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. The bookstore is offering a special Development of the Soul Part 2 package. It includes the Rabbah's social writings and 2 other books that are a must for any serious Kabbalah student. That is Shamati and The Science of Kabbalah, which is Pticha. And you can find them in the bookstore. tab on the EC website. In the EC website, you have a tab which is the bookstore. Any comments or unanswered questions or problems or concerns or issues, anything, you can email ec@kabbalah.info. There, our volunteers will help make sure your question gets routed to the right person.
Also, any criticisms that you might have, or you feel that we can improve things by doing things a little differently, please jot them down as well. We like to go according to how the students feel good.
Exactly. So we're very, very happy to be here.
Absolutely
And we thank you very much, and we'll see you next week.
Have a great evening.
Bye-bye.